During a violent storm, Tom, a lighthouse keeper, spotted a woman unconscious on the shore. Injured and barely breathing, she gripped a strange trident even in her sleep. Tom rushed through the wind and rain, carried her into the safety of the lighthouse, unaware that his life was about to change forever. When she woke, fear flashed in her eyes. She raised her trident, ready to strike, but Tom didn't flinch. He calmly reassured her.
Easy. You weren't breathing.
Exhausted and confused, she quickly lost consciousness again, leaving Tom with no answers. Tom took care of her, dressing her wounds and preparing food. When she woke again, disoriented and starving, she ate his pet fish raw. Unfazed, Tom simply offered her tea, earning her first genuine smile. Eventually, she revealed the truth. Her name was Atlanta, Queen of Atlantis, running from an arranged marriage. Against all odds, they fell deeply in love, and soon they had a son, Arthur. But peace wouldn't last. Their happiness shattered when Atlantean soldiers stormed the lighthouse to take her back.
By the authority of King Orvax.
Tom hid their baby as Atlanta fought fiercely, defeating them. But she knew they'd never stop hunting her. She had to return to protect the ones she loved. Before leaving, she made a promise.
One day, I will return to you when it's safe.
And just like that, she was gone. Tom was left alone, raising Arthur without knowing if he'd ever see her again. Arthur grew up different. At school, kids mocked him, called him a freak.
Arthur is talking to the fish.
My name's Arthur. What's yours?
Such a freak, Arthur.
Until one day at the aquarium, everything changed. A shark slammed aggressively into the glass, seemingly defending Arthur. Yet Arthur remained calm, somehow connected to the creature. That was the moment everyone understood. Arthur was far more than just different. He belonged to another world. Years later, in the deep ocean, pirates hijacked a submarine, ruthless and deadly, until something hit them. Hard. Lights flickered out. Panic set in. Then a powerful figure stepped aboard. Arthur had returned, but now he was Aquaman.
I should have come aboard.
Arthur storms the vessel, swiftly defeating the pirates and freeing the captured crew. Manta, enraged by the intrusion, attacks him but is overpowered. As Jesse attempts to shoot Arthur with a powerful weapon, it only briefly stuns him. Arthur quickly recovers, injuring Jesse and leaving the pirates stranded inside the damaged submarine. As Arthur prepares to leave, Jesse fires another shot, but it ricochets and damages the submarine, causing water to flood the interior. The chaos dislodges a massive gas tank, which crushes Jesse's leg. Manta frantically tries to free his father, but lacks the strength to lift the tank. Desperate, he pleads for Arthur's help.
Wait! Help me, he's trapped! Please!
But Arthur coldly refuses, stating that Jesse's actions have led to countless deaths and he must face the consequences.
You killed innocent people! You're asked to seek for mercy.
With his final breath, Jesse stared into his son's eyes and gave him one last command.
You need to live so you can kill that son of a bitch!
Jesse activated a grenade, sacrificing himself as the sub exploded. Manta survived, but the man he once was died alongside his father. In that moment, justice no longer mattered. All he wanted now was revenge. Later, Arthur returns to the shore, where he reunites with his father, Tom. Tom, relieved to see his son, suggests they grab breakfast together. They head to a local bar like old times. On TV, news anchors report the rescue of a hijacked submarine.
We now have unconfirmed reports that the metahuman, dubbed as the Aquaman, was responsible.
Arthur shrugs it off, but Tom looks at him with pride.
Mother always knew you were special.
To Arthur, he was just doing what was right, but to the world, he was becoming something more. Arthur shifts in his seat. The word Atlantis makes him tense. He tells Tom to drop it, says he owes that place nothing. It took his mother from him. Tom tries to reason with him, but Arthur explodes.
They killed her for loving you and having me, and you know it.
Tom puts a hand on his son's shoulder. You can't carry that guilt forever, he says. But for Arthur, that guilt never left. Not for a second. Their conversation is interrupted when a group of bar patrons recognizes Arthur as Aquaman. To his surprise, they enthusiastically approach for selfies, treating him like a celebrity. Meanwhile, deep underwater in Atlantis, King Orm meets with his advisor, Volko, and leads a delegation to the kingdom of Zeeble. Orm seeks an audience with King Nereus, to discuss an impending threat to their world. At the meeting, Orm argues that humans are a growing danger, bringing submarines dangerously close to Atlantis. He proposes a preemptive strike on the surface world to eliminate the threat. Nereus, however, opposes the idea, believing humans will ultimately destroy themselves without intervention. Orm insists that humanity's aggression will inevitably target Atlantis, but Nereus remains unconvinced. Nereus reminds Orm that any invasion requires the backing of 4 Atlantean kingdoms. Orm claims to have plans to rally the necessary support, but needs Nereus's help to solidify the alliances. Sensing Orm's ambition, Nereus accuses him of using the human threat as a ploy to claim the coveted title of Ocean Master. Orm denies caring about the title, but Nereus doubts his sincerity. Nereus also mentions whispers of a half-breed, an heir with a potential claim to the throne. Orm dismisses the rumor, revealing his disdain for Arthur, whom he blames for their mother's death. The two share a mother, Atlanta, but Orm's hatred for his half-brother runs deep, rooted in resentment and grief. Their meeting is abruptly interrupted by a sudden submarine attack, killing some of Orm's and Nereus's men. Furious, Orm retaliates, single-handedly destroying the submarine. The violent disruption convinces Nereus to reconsider Orm's warnings. He agrees to form an alliance, setting the stage for a united Atlantean front against humanity. Orm declares it's time to send a message to the surface world. Back at the bar, Tom is indulged in a bit too much to drink. Arthur, amused yet exasperated, helps his father to the truck. As they drive home, Arthur reflects on his conflicted feelings about Atlantis and the weight of the destiny everyone seems to believe he must fulfill. The road ahead seems uncertain, with both personal and global battles looming. As Arthur prepares to leave the bar with Tom, he encounters a woman named Mira. She urgently tells him he must follow her to Atlantis. Arthur, however, is dismissive, repeating what he had already told Vulko, that he has no interest in aiding the people who killed his mother. Mara counters with dire news. Orm is planning to wage war against the surface world. To stop him, they need Arthur's help. Mara explains that the only way to unite the surface and underwater worlds is for Arthur to claim his rightful place as King of Atlantis. Arthur laughs at the idea, pointing out that Orm would never willingly give up the throne, and that as someone who's never even been to Atlantis, he doubts anyone would recognize him as their leader. Mira insists that Arthur can change this by finding the lost trident of King Atlan, a weapon of immense power that would grant him the legitimacy and respect needed to challenge Orm. She reveals that Vulko has uncovered clues to the trident's location and urges Arthur to join her in the search. Despite her persistence, Arthur refuses, leaving her behind as he drives away. Meanwhile, Orm meets with Manta, who is revealed to have staged the submarine attack under Orm's orders. Orm praises Manta for his role in creating the illusion of a surface threat, which helped sway King Nereus to his side. However, when Manta demands a chance to avenge his father by killing Arthur, Orm brushes off the request, ending their transaction and departing. As Arthur drives Tom home, he notices birds fleeing the coastline and looks out to see a massive tsunami barreling toward them. He floors the gas pedal, but the wave quickly overtakes their truck. Before disaster strikes, Mara appears, using her hydrokinesis to create an air pocket around them. Arthur scrambles to pull Tom from the wrecked vehicle, but his father has passed out. Mara steps in to help, using her powers to revive Tom. As Arthur and Mira take in the devastation caused by the tsunami, she reveals that it's Orm's doing, a warning to the surface world. She warns that worse is coming, as Orm's plans for war are already underway. This time, Arthur reluctantly agrees to follow her to Atlantis. Arriving in Atlantis for the first time, Arthur is struck by the grandeur of the underwater city. Mira leads him to Vulko, who is overjoyed to see Arthur finally in Atlantis after years of trying to bring him there. Arthur wastes no time, demanding answers about the attack on the surface. Vulko explains that the tsunami is just the beginning, with Orm preparing for a full-scale war. Mira presses Vulko on what triggered Orm's aggression. Vulko recounts the supposed ambush by a surface submarine during Orm and Nereus's meeting, which pushed Nereus to form an alliance. Arthur is skeptical, asserting that no one on the surface even believes Atlantis exists. Volko, however, insists that the attack was real and has given Orm the leverage he needed to unite Atlantis' kingdoms. Volko warns that if Orm secures the support of 2 more Atlantean nations, he will gain control of the largest army in the ocean and claim the title of Ocean Master. The only way to stop him, Volko says, is for Arthur to challenge Orm and take the throne. Arthur, still resistant, argues that he has no desire to be king. Volko urges him to reconsider, stating that the people will only accept Arthur's rule if he retrieves the legendary trident of King Atlan. Without it, Arthur has no chance of rallying Atlantis to his side. Though conflicted, Arthur begins to realize the weight of the responsibility he cannot ignore. Arthur mentions he already has his mother's trident, but Volko explains the one they seek is no ordinary weapon. It was forged by the finest weapon masters for King Atlan, the first ruler of Atlantis. As Volko recounts its legend, he describes how Atlantis once thrived as the most advanced civilization on the surface before their ambition led to their downfall. A catastrophic experiment sank the kingdom to the ocean floor, forcing its people to adapt to underwater life. Divided by their losses, the Atlanteans splintered into separate kingdoms, and a heartbroken Atlan disappeared into exile with the trident, never to be seen again. Volko presents an ancient recorder, discovered by archaeologists, believed to contain Atlan's final message and the location of the trident. Arthur asks why they can't simply listen to it, but Volko reveals that the device is too old to function without specialized equipment found only in the Deserter Kingdom. Before Arthur can take the recorder, Orm's soldiers ambush the meeting site and blow it apart. Arthur battles the attackers while Mira and Volko retreat to avoid being associated with him. Despite his efforts, Arthur is overpowered and captured, chained and brought before Orm. Arthur sees his half-brother's disdain and conflicted emotions. Orm, surprised by Arthur's presence in Atlantis, admits he's uncertain what punishment fits for someone he has always despised. When Orm asks if Arthur has come to challenge him for the throne, Arthur declares he is ready to end the war Orm is starting. Orm, pleased, accepts the challenge despite protests from Mera and Volko. Mera points out that Arthur is unprepared for underwater combat, but Orm dismisses her concerns, confident in his ability to teach Arthur a humiliating lesson in front of Atlantis. Orm lays out the stakes. If Arthur wins, Orm will relinquish the throne, but if he loses, Arthur will die. While Arthur prepares for the duel, Volko visits him and chastises him for falling into Orm's trap. Arthur, confident, insists he can win, but Volko warns him that underwater combat is vastly different from fighting on land. The revelation devastated Arthur, who blamed himself for Atlanta's fate. Back in the present, the bitterness of that memory fuels his determination to confront Orm. Meanwhile, Orm presents Mira with a ceremonial bracelet, speaking confidently about his impending victory over Arthur. Mira challenges him, asking whether Atlanta would have wanted her sons to fight each other. Orm deflects her question, his resolve unshaken. He believes defeating Arthur will cement his rule and ensure Atlantis remains strong against the surface world. Mera, however, appears uneasy, torn between her loyalty to Atlantis and her growing realization that Arthur might be the leader they truly need. The stage is set for a confrontation that could determine the fate of both worlds. Mera challenges Orm, pointing out that his actions defy Atlanta's beliefs. Orm dismisses this, claiming their mother was weak and warning Mera not to emulate her. Their conversation is interrupted as Volko arrives with Arthur, prompting Orm to order his advisor to escort Mera, his betrothed, to the royal box. Arthur is stunned by the revelation of Mera's engagement to Orm, but keeps his thoughts to himself. Before the fight begins, Arthur reflects on how he once longed to meet his half-brother to assure him he wasn't alone. Orm, however, expresses reluctance to kill Arthur, offering him one last chance to return to the surface and await Atlantis' inevitable attack. Arthur refuses, leading them both to the battleground, where a crowd of Atlantean citizens gathers to witness the duel. In the royal box, Mira confronts her father, King Nereus, about his support for the war. Nereus defends his stance, blaming the surface dwellers for initiating hostilities. He insists it's time to show them their place. Meanwhile, the duel begins, and although Arthur struggles initially, he manages to land a few strikes on Orm. The tide soon turns, with Orm gaining the upper hand. Just as he's about to deliver a decisive blow, Mera intervenes, trapping Orm in an air pocket. Mera arrives with her ship and urges Arthur to escape with her. They flee Atlantis, but Orm and his soldiers quickly pursue them. Despite Orm's men destroying their ship, Arthur and Mera evade capture by hiding inside the mouth of a massive sea creature, which Arthur communicates with to secure their safety. Believing them dead, Orm and his forces withdraw. Once safe, Mera tells Arthur they must travel to the Sahara Desert to play Atlan's recording in the Deserter Kingdom. On the plane ride there, Mera expresses regret for her actions, feeling she has betrayed her family and people. Arthur tries to comfort her, joking that at least she won't have to marry Orm. Mera admits the guilt still weighs heavily, but Arthur reassures her that she did the right thing. Their tracker soon pinpoints the location of the Deserter Kingdom, and they parachute from the plane. Meanwhile, Orm's men discover Mera's bracelet still transmitting a signal from the desert. Though Nereus demands his daughter be brought back unharmed, Orm reluctantly agrees to spare her life to preserve their alliance. Elsewhere, Orm meets with Manta, handing him a powerful weapon and assigning him to hunt down Arthur and Mera. Orm promises a substantial reward for success, but Manta only cares about avenging his father. Orm also dispatches his elite soldiers to assist Manta in the mission, ensuring every resource is used to track them down. As Mera and Arthur search for the entrance to the Deserter Kingdom, their progress is slow. Frustrated, Arthur complains about the harshness of the desert, calling it a wasteland. Mera counters, saying he should feel at home since it's part of the surface world. Arthur quips that there are far better places than the desert, offering a rare moment of levity amidst their dire mission. Despite the tension and their contrasting perspectives, they push forward, determined to uncover the secrets of Atlan's message and secure the trident that could save both Atlantis and the surface from Orm's destructive ambitions. Unbeknownst to them, Manta and Orm's soldiers are closing in, setting the stage for an explosive confrontation. Arthur tells Mera she shouldn't judge the surface world without exploring its entirety, but Mera counters, saying he never tried to understand Atlantis before hating it. Their debate is interrupted as they finally discover the entrance to the Deserter Kingdom. Within the kingdom's main temple, they uncover proof of King Atlan's trident's existence and find the device needed to play the recording. When they activate the recorder, a hologram of King Atlan emerges, describing the trident's unmatched power and its ability to unite the kingdoms of land and sea, but only in the hands of a true heir. Atlan reveals the path to the trident lies beyond the hidden sea, accessible via a chart hidden in a bottle that can only be interpreted by a true king. As the hologram fades, Mera destroys the recorder to ensure no one else can use it. Before they leave, a bottle emerges from a hidden compartment in the temple floor. Inside is a map pointing them to a location in Italy. Upon arriving, Mera enjoys the lively streets and vibrant beauty of the city, but they quickly focus on their mission. At the marked location, Arthur deduces the bottle must be placed in the hand of a specific statue. Doing so reveals their next destination, in the middle of the ocean. Before they can leave, Manta ambushes them, injuring Arthur with a surprise attack. As Manta pursues Arthur, Mera confronts Orm's soldiers, who announce they're also there to capture her for treason. Mera flees, planning her next move, while Arthur and Manta engage in an intense battle. Manta's advanced suit and weapons give him an edge, but Arthur fights back with determination. During their fight, Arthur demands to know how they were found. Manta reveals that Mera's bracelet contains a tracker. Meanwhile, Mera outmaneuvers the soldiers, killing them one by one. Arthur ultimately defeats Manta, who crashes into jagged rocks before falling into the sea. Exhausted and injured, Arthur collapses as Mera rushes to his side. Arthur warns Mera that her bracelet is tracking them. Realizing this, she smashes the bracelet just as Arthur passes out. Elsewhere in Atlantis, Orm approaches the Kingdom of the Fishermen to recruit their army for his war. King Riku refuses, denouncing the conflict as reckless. Furious, Orm kills Riku and forces his heir to prepare their army, leaving only one kingdom left before Orm can lead a full-scale assault on the surface. Arthur awakens aboard a small boat, groggy but alive. He sees Mera playing a flute and learns she stole the boat to follow the charted path. Their destination, the Kingdom of the Trench, the place where Atlanta was supposedly executed. Mera warns Arthur that the Trench is now known as a realm of death, filled with unknown horrors that await anyone who dares to enter. Though the danger is great, Arthur steels himself, determined to uncover the truth about his mother's fate and retrieve Atlan's trident. Together, he and Mera brace for what lies ahead, knowing their journey will only grow more perilous as they draw closer to their ultimate goal. Arthur, shaken by the dangers ahead, suggests turning back to warn the surface dwellers of the impending war. He doubts his ability to become king. Mera counters, expressing her unwavering belief in him and urging him to realize he's the one destined to unite the worlds, above and below. As they approach their destination, a horde of monstrous creatures known as the Trench ambushes them. Mera and Arthur struggle to fend off the relentless attackers. Desperate, they use flares to repel the creatures and dive into the water in search of the portal leading to the hidden sea. When they finally locate it, Mera warns they cannot pass through together, but Arthur refuses to leave her behind. Holding her hand, he attempts to cross, but the portal's energy violently separates them. Mera loses consciousness and drifts toward the hidden sea, where she's nearly devoured by creatures before being rescued by an unknown figure. Mera wakes on the shore of the hidden sea, where her savior removes their helmet to reveal their identity: Atlanta, Arthur's mother. Stunned, Mera watches as Arthur arrives, equally shocked to see his mother alive. Overcome with emotion, Arthur embraces Atlanta and demands to know how she survived. Atlanta explains that while Orvax condemned her to death in the trench, she fought for her life and managed to escape. Arthur blames himself for her suffering, but Atlanta assures him it was not his fault, explaining that her actions were necessary to protect him and Tom. When she asks about Tom, Arthur tells her that he still waits every morning, hoping she'll return. Atlanta is moved, but explains she couldn't come back because the portal leading to the hidden sea is one way. The trident is the only means to leave, but it is fiercely guarded by the Carathan, a powerful and ancient creature. Mera suggests they fight the Carathan together to retrieve the trident, but Atlanta reveals that only the true heir can claim it. She encourages Arthur, calling him the hero who can save both their worlds. Directing him to a hidden waterfall, she tells him his destiny lies beyond. Arthur ventures behind the waterfall and finds King Atlan's skeleton clutching the trident. As he reaches for it, the Carathan emerges, declaring Arthur the least worthy of all who have sought the trident. The creature mocks him for being a half-breed and tosses him around mercilessly. On the brink of death, Arthur pleads for the Carathan to stop, admitting he knows he's unworthy but needs the trident to save his people. The Carathan is stunned by Arthur's honesty and notes that no one has spoken to him since Atlan centuries ago. Sensing potential in Arthur, the Carathan allows him to prove himself by wresting the trident from Atlan's grasp. Arthur succeeds, and as he grips the trident, its power flows through him, marking him as the one true king of Atlantis. Arthur returns triumphantly to Mera and Atlanta, who greet him with pride, acknowledging him as the true king. Meanwhile, Orm discovers Vulko's betrayal in aiding Arthur. Furious, he orders Vulko's arrest but spares his life so Vulko can witness Atlantis' attack on the surface. Orm's soldiers imprison Vulko, ensuring he'll be forced to watch the war unfold from his cell. As Arthur prepares for the next stage of his journey, his newfound power and the support of Mera and Atlanta strengthen his resolve. The stage is set for a final confrontation with Orm, with the fate of both the surface world and Atlantis hanging in the balance. Orm leads Nereus and the Fisherman Kingdom's army to the Brine Kingdom, demanding their king's surrender and alliance in the war. When the Brine King refuses, Orm threatens to kill him. Before he can act, a massive Carathan appears, silencing everyone. Riding atop the creature is Arthur, wielding Atlan's trident. The sight leaves the armies in awe, recognizing Arthur as the true heir to Atlantis' throne. Using the trident's power, Arthur summons sea creatures to aid in defeating Orm's forces. Amid the chaos, Mera urges Arthur to confront Orm directly, reminding him that further casualties can be avoided if the brothers settle their conflict alone. She then approaches Nereus, showing him the trident as proof of Arthur's legitimacy. Nereus, convinced, commands his soldiers to stand down, proclaiming Arthur as their king. Arthur lures Orm to the surface for their final duel. On the ocean's surface, Orm declares he will never accept Arthur as king. Arthur, resolute, states they'll fight for the throne. Meanwhile, Mera rescues Vulko, who insists the people must witness their rightful king triumph over Orm to cement his rule. Together, they watch as Arthur battles Orm in a fierce and skillful fight. Despite Orm's strength and experience, Arthur's determination and newfound mastery with the trident allow him to overpower his brother. With Orm disarmed and defeated, Arthur demands he yield the throne. Orm refuses, insisting Arthur must kill him to end the fight. Arthur declines, saying he won't stoop to violence to prove himself, stating, "I'm not one of you." As Orm continues to taunt Arthur, Atlanta appears, halting the fight. Orm is stunned to see his mother alive, and she embraces him, calling for an end to the feud. She explains that Orvax's teachings were wrong and urges Orm to understand that the land and sea are meant to coexist. Her words strike a chord, and Orm visibly softens. Vulko arrives to take Orm into custody, ensuring his imprisonment rather than execution. Mera publicly announces Arthur as the new King of Atlantis. The gathered armies erupt in celebration, chanting Arthur's name as he rallies them with a declaration of unity. The next morning, Tom walks to the docks, as he has every day since Atlanta left. To his amazement, he finds her waiting for him. Overwhelmed with joy, he embraces her, and she reassures him that she has finally returned. Together, they look out at the ocean, united as a family once more, as Arthur assumes his rightful place as King of Atlantis, bridging the worlds of land and sea.